What's up, guys? We are here in Anaheim, California for the third stop of the 2011 MLG Pro Circuit. I'm your host, Chris Bucket, joined in the booth tonight by the 2006 national champions. You know them, it's Gandhi and Shockwave. Guys, this is set to be an epic weekend. What are you most excited for?
Well, Chris, I'm going to be most excited to see how Instinct comes out. They dominated our last event in Columbus, but going into Anaheim, they're going to be the favorites. I want to see if they live up to this hype.
You know, everyone's expecting Instinct to return and win the second event. What I'm excited about is Pool C. No one knows who's going to come out of that. We have straight rippin, evil, believe the hype, triggers down. It's an incredible pool, and to see who emerges from that is a guaranteed into the top 6. So epic.
Dude, Pool C is going to be amazing, but before we dive too deep into our pool play preview, let's take a quick look back at what happened at our last event in Columbus, Ohio. Sorry, I muted that video for you guys. But anyway, let me get to what happens in it. Instinct goes through the tournament and absolutely dominates everybody. And then at the end, in Ogre2's wrap-up interview, he says, coming into Anaheim, we'll see if some of the other teams can catch up. Basically, he just said what we've all been thinking. Instinct outclassed the competition back in Columbus, guys.
Hands down, outclass is almost a little too nice. They dominated everyone. They dropped one game, and that was to Dynasty. Yeah. Every other team was steamrolled. Sorry to cut you off, but you have to stress that enough. They dropped one game in a tournament.
Yeah, but coming into our Anaheim event, 13 out of the 16 teams in our pro bracket changed up because of this dominance by Instinct, trying to find that right, group of players to actually be able to dethrone them. And that means only 3 teams with the same roster from Columbus.
Absolutely, Chris. And those 3 teams are Instinct, of course, your returning champs. Dynasty, the team that ended up placing 3rd. And then our number 1 seed overall, it's Status Quo, and these guys are going to be our number 1 team here in Pool A. Now, also in Pool A, we got Quantic Fallen, Victoria's Secret, RGC Impact. Guys, Pool A is looking pretty tough here, but I need to get your predictions officially. Who do you have coming out of this pool? Who's going to advance to the winter semis?
Well, I'm going to have to go with Status Quo, the top team in the entire tournament and the top team in Pool A. I think when you look at that pool, you've got a few great teams in there, Fallen, Victoria's Secret, but Status Quo, I think right now is a league of their own, especially at the top there.
Well, Status Quo really shouldn't have too much trouble with this pool, but you can't necessarily count out Victoria's Secret just because they attended to land and they did very well versus triggers down. So they have a fighting chance, but Status Quo was not hungry for the last event. After your first tournament win, it's very rare that a team will actually come back and repeat. You just get that confidence boost and you slack off. But Flamesword's more dedicated than ever. He was streaming nonstop in between these events, and they look extremely well practiced.
So Quo for both of you guys?
Quo for both.
All right, so we got Quo moving on here for Pool A, but let's move on to our next pool right away. We're going to keep this one fast. Let's go into Pool B. This is headed by our number 2 seed overall, the returning champions. We touched on it. That is Team Instinct coming in with the Eon name. They're joined by Final Boss, of course, Ogre2 and Pistol, former members of that. Final Boss picks up Cloud for this event. Then we have Active Rush, TSB Active Rush, and UOR Carbon. Carbon back in the top 16, guys. You excited about that?
It's a Ghost Ayami in the top 16, which is even more surprising. I mean, he hasn't been there recently, but I'm glad to see him back. But the big story here is Instinct kind of got lucky with this pool. They don't have a real challenger because, well, Final Boss just isn't well enough practiced, and Instinct just leaps and bounds ahead of every other team. the combination of Roy Pistola and then you merge them with Ogre 2 and Pistola is just, it's too unbearable.
Yeah, I have to agree. Instinct, for sure, is going to be taking Pool B. The biggest competition I see from them is going to be at Final Boss. And at the 6-team LAN before this event, Instinct played Final Boss Squad, defeating them 9-2 in the only series they actually played. So it looks like Instinct's going to be really strong for this pool.
And we will have Instinct facing off against their Pool B rival Final Boss. That is coming up as our second match of the night. That'll be going down at 6:45. But you guys both have Instinct winning Pool B here?
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Instinct will move to the winners semifinals, and they will face off against the winner of Pool C. And looking at Pool C here, we're kicking it off with our third-seeded team overall. It's Straight Rippin. Now, Straight Rippin finished second back in Columbus. They drop Nated and Ryan Noob, pick up their old-school teammates of Elamite and Neighbor, and they are going to have to, you know, a lot of people in the community are disappointed by that move. I think they have a lot to prove this event, and they are going up against the toughest, I guess, other teams here out of any pools. This is the toughest pool. We got THO Evil, Complexity Triggers Down, and Believe the Hype here. Guys, Pool C, it's kind of up in the air. I can't pick a winner. Who do you guys have winning Pool C?
Yeah, we've talked about it. This is going to be the toughest pool here, but I'm going to pick Evil. And I love the way that this team's made up of APG, Lethal, Crimsix, and Twin Savior. When you look at this team, you're thinking 4 Slayers. Like, how are they going to be able to play as a team? But surprisingly, Capture the Flag is by far their best game type. And if that's going to be your best game type, it's going to say something about those teammates. They're going to play selfless. I just love the slaying ability. I love the teamwork of this team. Everything I saw from that 6-team LAN, I think it's going to transition over very well to this tournament.
I'm looking at a completely different team here. I have to go personally with Believe the Hype. This team came out in the 6-team LAN. They finished second. They took Instinct to 11 games. That means the God Squad lost 5 games to a team, which they only lost 1 last tournament. This team's very well put together. Ryan Noob, you preached about it last event. We and you were giving credit to T-Squared and Legit, but a really good Noob was one of the most impressive players I watched at that 6-team LAN, and I'd have to say he's in my top 10.
I'm pretty smart.
Yeah, you're up there.
I called that one. But Scott, before you picked Believe the Hype, coming into this event before that big LAN, you picked Triggers Down. Tell me, what did you think about TD, and why don't you have much confidence in them coming into this event?
Well, one, they didn't do well at the LAN, so instantly I have to bump my prediction and switch it with the team who did really well at the 6-team LAN.
Smart
but
move.
the reason I did like this squad was because you have Nated and Hysteria. Now, granted, they both play similar roles, but if you could form a way to actually make them and benefit from both of their strategies, you could potentially have a good team, and it would resemble something that could possibly win this pool. But instead, you have SK, who's on the hot seat in this position, and he really has a chip on his shoulder. If he doesn't perform, I think it's going to be bye-bye SK.
Well, I actually got a chance to sit down and talk with Nated yesterday about this team, and actually one of the most interesting things I want to talk about is the needle rifle. This is going to be the only team probably in the pro bracket that's going to 2 of the members, Hysteria and SK, using the needle rifle. And Nated, I mean, I know the kid never lies to me. The kid told me the needle rifle is devastating, especially when put in the right hands. I am really excited to see how this team works out.
So let me get this straight. The Hysteria and SK have gone back to the needle rifle, which we saw from the very first LAN of Halo Reach before our opener. That's what you're trying to tell me.
All right, well, we hope that they make it to the main stage this weekend so we can see it, showcase that action. But, guys, let's move on. So just to wrap up Pool C again, you guys are both taking?
I am taking Believe the Hype.
And?
Evil.
All right, well, I got Straight Rippin. Why? Because I love Neighbor. All right, let's move on. Pool D, baby. At the top of Pool D here, we have Dynasty. This team made it all the way to the winner's bracket finals against Instinct, and then later fell to Straight Rippin to finish in 3rd place. They're keeping their same lineup, though, coming into this tournament, and they are joined by Warriors, that strong side Snakebite, Twilight, and Friends, and then we got Severance and Fnatic Classic here. Guys, Classic and Severance have 2 very tough teams in their pool. Who do you have winning this one?
Clear-cut favorite going into this one is Dynasty. Dynasty didn't land before the last event, but they were still the only team to take a game off of Instinct. Now that says something. You get this team practiced and you come into an event, they're going to do a lot better. With that being said, they should have no problem winning this pool. It's probably the weakest pool we have.
Yeah, Scott, top to bottom, Pool D is probably going to be the weakest pool here. And Dynasty, like you said, again, the only team to take a game off of Instinct at Columbus. They did a very good job at the 16 LAN. Obviously not the performance they were looking for. When it comes down to looking at this pool and looking at the teams in it, I think they are the clear-cut favorite. But I don't want to count out a Warriors squad led by Strongside. Looking at that team, you had Twilight and Dursky placing 4th with Capital Punishment at Columbus. We know that they can play at the top of their game. And Strongside, we've considered him at one of the top players so far in Halo Reach. Incredible raw talent right there. I think they have a chance to knock Dynasty off. There's a team.
I actually hung out with both Snakebite and Strongside in the hot tub yesterday. Those guys are feeling so confident. They told me we're finishing second. We're going to beat Dynasty tonight on the main stage. They're going to win Pool D, and then they're going to go on to beat Status Quo for a chance to be in the winner's bracket finals against Instinct.
Very bold statement. But
I have trust the side.
But the thing is having the mental game going into that is definitely a huge aspect. You don't want to go in assuming you're going to lose your pool or you may take them to Game 5. You already lost, in my opinion. You have to expect a 3-0 every time you're playing.
Well, I am super pumped up for that final match in Pool D between Dynasty and Warriors. I think whoever wins that one is definitely going to win the pool. But, guys, I think that's going to do it for all of our top 16 teams. But let's talk about some of the other teams playing in the tournament this weekend. Who do you have your eye on in the open bracket? Is there any team that could possibly make their way all the way into our top 8?
No-brainer. Turning Point. This is Walshy's team. Now, Walshy, hasn't really been known in Halo Reach, but he's incredibly talented. But the story here is not Best Man. It's not McWin. It's Ninja. Ninja is one of the most talented players online on the Justin.tv feed that he is on. But he's yet to show up to a tournament, and I think with Walshy's leadership, he is going to emerge as one of the top players. Sometimes it takes that veteran presence to actually boost you to that next level of being able to be a tournament competitor.
I got my eyes on McWin.
Really?
You said Ninja. I think McWin has that natural talent, and he has so much to learn. You have no better coach / teammate than Walshy in the game. I think he's going to learn a lot from Best Man and Walshy, and McWin and Ninja will definitely surprise a lot of people this weekend. But Chris, Turning Point's not the only team in the open bracket. We had a team come all the way over from Australia. Who are we going to be watching?
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about, the international team. We're going to see Immunity here at this event, and I'm really excited to see what is considered the best team in Australia has to offer. I got to talk with a few of the guys actually from Turning Point. They land against this team Immunity, and they said they're really talented individually. The teamwork gradually got better as the LAN went on. Hopefully they kind of learned something from playing with some of the top American players. But by the end of the LAN, they lost 3-2 to Turning Point, which is a huge improvement from a lot of European teams playing the top teams in America. I'm really excited, and I hope they make it into the pools here on the main stage.
Same here. Big shout out to Ogre1, who gave me the heads up a couple of weeks ago on Twitter. He said, look out for Benno. This kid is going to be dominating. So we'll be keeping an eye out. If you guys didn't know, we're only going to have 2 guys in the booth all weekend long. The other one's going to be out on the floor, keeping an eye on both Immunity and Turning Point. We'll keep you up to date with what's going on with the open bracket. But guys, we just covered open bracket. We just covered pool play. Let's talk big picture here. Who is going to be walking away with the trophy at the end of this weekend?
I think it's going to be a team with the green logo. Their name is Instinct.
Oh, that's it.
That's the team. They are leaps and bounds far ahead of every other competitors in this. I think it's going to take at least another event. Like we said, we had only 3 teams returning with the exact same roster as the previous event. They need a little bit more time to practice before they can take down this juggernaut team.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the safe route, and I'm going to take Instinct as well. After their Columbus performance and their 16 LAN performance, they just look so dominant. And you're looking at Pistola and Roy, the top 2 players, in my opinion, in the entire game. And you're teaming them up with Lunchbox and Ogre2, probably top 10 players in their own right. I mean, it just makes for a killer team. But I do think there's some teams out there with the talent to be able to upset them at certain points in the tournament. Instinct better be on top of their game if they want to win here in Anaheim.
Who are those teams?
I'm thinking I'm thinking Evil, Believe the Hype, and pretty much every team from Pool C.
Pool C?
Yeah. Wow. Bold statement. I am waiting to see the Status Quo versus Instinct matchup because Instinct never got to face Status Quo. So technically they never dethroned our opener champion. So that match will be the deciding factor of who is the true champion of Halo Reach.
All right, well, speaking of Status Quo, they are coming up next, guys. We're getting it started with match number 1 from Pool A. We got, formerly known as Swagger Like Us, Team Fallen taking on SQ.
Can't wait for it.